Welcome to Certified Credit's Talk Data to Me podcast, where our FCRA certified experts help you tackle the latest regulations, emerging trends, and unique challenges of the mortgage industry with an intuitive, people-first approach. And of course, data. Because your business is built on more than just a score. Visit certifiedcredit.com for more information. Certified Credit helps you hone your best practices from lead generation to post-closing QC and everything in between.
This is Elizabeth Langbarton of Certified Credit's Talk Data to Me podcast, and joining me today is Dalila Ramos. Hi, Dalila. How you doing?
Good. Glad to be on. Thanks.
Thank you. And Marisol Pintado, who is part of our Certified Credit team. How are you, Marisol?
I'm doing great. What about yourselves?
I am very well, and I'm very excited to be here with both of you ladies for a special episode of Talk Data to Me. So, as you may or may not know, for our listeners, Hispanic Heritage Month takes place from September 15th to October 15th. Yep. And I was actually wondering why it was September 15th to October 15th. Do you guys know?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So actually, we observed originally it was just a week. It was 1 week starting September 15th. And it was it's a celebration of the history, cultures, and contributions of American citizens who came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. So those with Hispanic heritage. And the observation started in 1968 as a week. And President Lyndon B. Johnson said, hey, we're going to celebrate our Hispanic heritage as a country. And later, President Ronald Reagan in 88 decided it was going to be a 30-day period. And so it starts on the 15th of September because it's the anniversary of independence for Latin American countries of Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua.
Oh.
And then you have Mexican and Chile independence on the 16th, followed by the 18th. So it is a period of time for the independence of Latin America. And so now as the United States, we celebrate it on the 15th to the 15th.
Well,
so that's little fun fact.
My fun fact for the day.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, given that you both are very important to our industry and also celebrate this Hispanic culture, Dalila, can you share a little bit about yourself with us?
Oh, okay. So, Dalila Ramos, I've been in the industry for 21 years now, so I feel like I am a veteran and a mortgage G, like a mortgage gangster at this point, right? I've done a lot of different channels within our industry. I was an originator, I was an AE, I did HELOCs, but the last over a decade now has been recruiting, and now, especially the last maybe 2 years has now been, I don't know, Allie and Madi, what would you call me? Like video content influencing?
Yeah, it's like an influencer, social media guru.
Yeah.
Kind of the voice of the industry, just going out and telling everybody, this is what's happening. This is where I'm at. This is who I'm talking to. Yeah, just like a personality.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Well, and so I've dipped into that space within the last 2-3 years, but I feel like I said, I'm a veteran. I'm originally from Chicago, born and raised. I currently live now in Florida for the last 12 years. I'm absolutely very grateful to God for the mortgage industry. I'm also an investor. I have multiple properties. So I feel very confident as a woman with Latin background and heritage to talk on this topic. And it's very near and dear to my heart because mortgage is super important and it's very powerful.
Yeah. And Marisol, I believe you can also talk to that as our team member in Puerto Rico. You are really representing another area of the market. So can you give us a little bit about you as well?
Sure. Glad to hear all of that, Dalila, coming from you. So you're a very experienced person in the industry, and it is so, goes to my heart that you are a Latina as myself. And
Yes.
that's very, very important. Well, talking about me, I've been doing this kind of job, and my line is more credit, and I've been in the industry for 32 years. But let me
Wow.
tell you something. It has been 32 years, but I feel like it's been a year because I love so much what I do that I haven't seen those 32 years goes by. It feels like, it's just been like a couple of years, but I really love what I do. I love helping out consumers, people, lenders, customers, everything that I can do to help out people. That's actually what I love to do. So
Dalila, I don't know if you know this, but Marisol is a credit whiz.
I-
So she knows just about everything. She did a podcast with the MBA of Puerto Rico, and it's a 3-part series. So far, I've seen the first 2 parts, and the entire conversation, I was like, I didn't know that. Wait, I didn't know that either. And I mean, I've been surrounded by this for, as a consumer my entire life, but as somebody in the industry for a year. And I was still like, oh my gosh. So she knows everything. If you ever have a credit question, Marisol's your
You know
girl.
what? That is actually, I'm going to write that down because I feel like I'm very well versed in credit, but I can tell that Marisol, that's her God-given talent, right?
Yeah.
Like that's her jam. So
It
you know what?
is.
That's my new go-to.
So
yeah.
in our industry, it's interesting because Dalila, you've been here for 21 years and Marisol, you've been here for 32. How did you guys find your way into the industry? Because I feel like people don't go out and say, hey, I want to be in credit reporting space or in the mortgage industry. They just fall into it.
Fall into it. I was in the medical assisting field for a couple of years before I stumbled into the mortgage industry via title. So my first job was with Chicago Title out of Chicago as a receptionist in like 2001.
Okay.
That's where it all started. And of course, you get sucked in, you never leave.
Yeah.
Well, for me, you will be surprised. I was 19 when I started working on credit, and I didn't have an idea of this industry at all. I was like a boutique manager.
Okay.
And then out of a sudden, I just find this job and, didn't require any experience. And that was at the time when you did the credit reports, updates, all were manual thing that you have to do in a typewriter. You have to call and interview consumers. So that was back in the early 90s, right? And everything was manual. Then I saw when all the credit score started and all these automations started, and I have seen all those stages in the industry, and I fell in love. Just fell in love with the work. It fell in love with the credit stuff, and what I enjoy most is having people to learn what they can do to improve their scores, what they can do to improve their credit, and also lenders, what they can do to help out people.
Yeah. I think that really is an interesting portion of our business because not only for just consumers in general, but if we're talking about the Hispanic population, there's really, I don't want to say a disadvantage, but there is a disparity between your typical lender or borrower who walks in and they go with a lender who looks like them, sounds like them, that has the same cultural background as them. And then, Dalila, you could probably talk to this a little. We have our population in the mortgage industry is not representative of our general population. And so as a consumer who's Hispanic, they're going in and saying, I'm not working with somebody who understands my background and understands what I've been through in my life. And so how are you kind of seeing that play out in the consumer demographic, Marisol? How are you seeing that play out, Dalila, in recruiting?
It's, I'm glad you got Marisol and I on this platform, because I want to make a point here, right? We both are from Latino, Hispanic backgrounds, right? But there are major differences between Marisol and I, right? And I feel like I represent a whole generation of Hispanics or Latinos that have been here already for a few years, right? My mother was already, my grandma, we're already been here already for a long period of time. I don't know anything else other than this country. And there's a lot of myself that we're born here. We have a little bit more, I want to say leverage or up, because we come from the American kind of background, culture, as far as education and things like that. So we are given some few like tools, but it's never in depth. It's never in details. Like growing up in Chicago and the housing projects of Chicago, no one ever talked to me about home ownership, right? No one ever talked to me about that. And I think that that's something that it needs to be, but yet, let me take it back. Other countries talk about it so much more, them not being American. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like me being an American and me being born here, no one ever talked to me about home ownership. Yeah, you got someone coming from Mexico. That's their dream. Like that's their focus, to come over and to own property here in the United States.
It's a very different experience.
Isn't that a different experience? So I didn't have like people, I don't have that. I don't have that it's so trippy when I explain that to people and they're like, oh my, I never realized that. I mean, I would love to hear Marisol, right? Marisol.
And Marisol, your background is very different because you're in Puerto Rico serving a Puerto Rican market.
Yep.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you, Dalila, on that. And on my experience, talking about home ownership for some locals is like, oh my goodness, that's a big deal, and they see that most of the consumers and the younger ones see that as their major dream, but at the same time, it's kind of far away. Oh my goodness, I'm not prepared to that, to start working to get a new home or to get a home. And you see that I would say there's a lack of information out there for people. That's why for me it's so important to continue educating people and let them know it's not a big deal. Okay, you have to be prepared, but you can do it. It's just a matter of being educated and prepare yourself, and for lenders just to educate them as well in terms of how many tools they have in their hands to help out people.
Right.
Achieving their dream.
Right. And I would say that our industry is making strides towards that. I think it's a conversation that's happening quite often. You have organizations like NAMBA, you have organizations that are talking about, okay, what does this look like? And, in looking into this more in depth, there was a 48.4% increase in home ownership that went up from 47.5% in 2019. So there's positive growth, but we're not seeing nearly the same amount of home ownership between Hispanic and non-Hispanic.
Yeah. Well, I think it comes with culturally, we're very family orientated. So that's one thing, right? We're very family orientated. And that is also includes the home, right? Like
Mhm.
we very much know that the home is the place where we gather, where we converse, where we
Mhm.
celebrate, right?
Right.
And we know how important that is within for our culture. So that being said, like I know that it's very much talked about
Mhm.
for us, right? I make it a point to talk to my children about it, to make
Mhm.
sure that they understand now, because I have that information. And now more than ever with technology, when I first started, Marisol, when you first started, I still had a card catalog, right? We didn't have Google when we first
Right.
started. They have Google. So like you can like Google. We didn't have that, but now we do. So now I feel like the information is
Mhm.
literally at the palm of your hand, right?
Yeah.
So I just feel like there's no, I don't know, like there's no excuse now, right? Like
Right.
there's so many tools, there's so many resources, there's so many apps out there that if you
Mhm.
truly want to learn about home ownership, it's out there for you. It's,
Mhm.
you know, it's not like back in the day where you had to go to an actual lender or a loan originator and they're the only person. No, you know, it's like now there are so many online resources and tools for you to go and navigate through and really educate yourself before even having an initial conversation
Right.
about, you know, purchasing a home.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
So, as I say, Marisol, you know, you're primarily working with our clients and our friends down in Puerto Rico.
Mhm.
What is the housing market currently look like down there? Because a lot of what we're seeing is how the US, you know, the mainland US in the States, we have the low inventory, we have high prices, we have interest rates that are, you know, considerably higher than they were last year. And this is putting a barrier not only for Hispanic Americans, but for most new homeowners, even people who have a home who would like to sell and move somewhere else, you know, they're holding back. And so what are you seeing in Puerto Rico?
It's the same, or I would
Mhm.
say even more challenging right
Mhm.
wow.
now. You know, there is a lack of house inventory, you know, like high interest rates and people with lower income just because of the COVID thing.
Mhm.
You know, it's more challenging. I've been reading just a document that was the newspaper today about how difficult it is to buy a house right now.
Mhm.
And it's more challenging right now just because of what I just mentioned.
Mhm.
So it's pretty much like in the mainland, you know, I would
Mhm.
say more difficult, more
Are
challenging.
you also seeing the same kind of trends with remote work, people migrating to less populated areas, moving out of the major cities, and then in return of that, you know, people who aren't from Puerto Rico coming in for those rental properties?
Yeah.
Definitely, yes, definitely, yes. And there are investors buying here in
Mhm.
cash, and there's a really lack of houses for the local people to
Yeah.
buy, and it's been, you know, since 2022 started, it has been a challenge for you know,
Wow.
anybody
Yeah.
that would want to buy a house. And remember, Puerto Rico is a small island, and you
Mhm.
know, and that's why it's so challenging right now to acquire a property.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Even for to rent a property is a
Mhm.
challenge. Yeah.
Hmm.
So is there anything that lenders are doing right now that's helping improve that? Um, or is there things that lenders could be doing to help in that situation? Does it go back to education? What resources are available?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are doing whatever they can, you know, they are
Mhm.
educating, they are doing, you can see them so active in social media to let the people know that there are still opportunities out there, however, are, you know, challenging, but they are doing their best to,
Mhm.
you know, to try to help the local people get their
Yeah.
houses or get an opportunity to buy a house. But, you know, it's challenging times. What I have read this morning, the opportunities went down to 60%, and this haven't happened for 10 years, for the decade.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know how or when it's gonna improve. That's not my area, but that's what I have seen so far, or have listened from my customers. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, that makes it even more difficult knowing that this is somebody's homeland. You know, this is someone they've grown up there, their family's there, and then they're having the difficulties finding a home there. Adds another layer of complexity.
Yeah.
But Delilah, shifting a little bit, you're in a different part of the mortgage industry. You're focusing on recruitment, building connections for businesses and individuals. This all kind of ties into, you know, we're kind of in two different spaces. And what are you seeing from the side of diversity and inclusion and having a better understanding of different cultural backgrounds? What are you seeing in that recruitment space?
Yeah, I definitely am still seeing, there's still opportunity. I know that you see a lot of people laying off, right? Pulling back. But I do know that the DEI space and the Latino Hispanic community is always a focus, right? Because you definitely within your organization, especially as a lender, you always want representation of the community, whether it be Hispanic, whether it be African American, Asian, you name it, you definitely always want representation, and that falls under the DEI space. I know that, you know, lenders, I just read somewhere where lenders are not coming out as far as technology. They're now coming out with apps in Spanish. I was super, I was super taken back by that, because that is something that when I entered, that was not even the case. Closing documents, credit reports, all that was always in English. And now you're seeing them in Spanish. That was huge.
Yeah,
right?
that is absolutely huge. I mean, especially considering, I think they said like 70% of home buyers between now and 2040 will be of Hispanic heritage.
Yep.
I mean, so maybe it's not maybe they do speak English, but that's not their primary language.
Yeah.
And that puts you at another disadvantage. I mean, that could be said for any major language.
Yep.
You know, if you only speak Chinese and you don't have Chinese documents, that's a problem. If you only speak French and there's no French documents, that's a problem.
It is. It is. We would have to go to, in the beginning, Marisol, I don't know if you've ever had this, where if you had to translate, you would have to call in. Remember that third party, that number? There was like a third party phone service you would call. This is what I did. And when I would do closings and things like that, it was a number and you would dial in and you would choose the language if you didn't have someone, and then the translator on that, put them on speaker and you would translate the closing that way. But that no longer is like, that's like something in the past, because now you definitely have the documentations in that language, not only in Spanish, in other languages as well. I think that just shows you the sign of the times and where the growth is, as far as, you know, audience and target audiences, right? That they're having to do apps and marketing content in Spanish. That shows you something.
I always think it's really interesting when we talk about translation of documents, and you're talking about the service you had to call.
Yeah.
And now you have all the apps you have. I mean, even if you don't know how to speak the language directly, I've been a couple countries where I take an app and I talk into Google and Google translates it for me.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Then,
I mean, I think about even our own process here. Marisol is, you know, because we translate some of our documents for Marisol, I look at it and I'm like, all right, I know enough when I read Spanish that I can translate most of it. But we have an internal resource and we go, hey, Marisol, here's the document. Can you take a look at this and make sure that this is accurate? And I mean, even having somebody on our staff who is bilingual,
Yep.
makes a huge difference. And in our support team, 20% of our support team is bilingual.
Yeah.
So if you call in, Maricel's not available. We also have several other individuals who are bilingual who can help out. And
Yeah.
so I feel like that's not something that was happening 10 years ago.
You're absolutely right. And as I continue to source for clients and companies, I'm noticing they'll ask the requirement, are they bilingual? Now, if it's in Spanish, I have done interviews in Spanish to make sure that they are
very cool.
That they are at the level that they need to be, because some people do put that they're bilingual, but not as efficient or
well, that would be, I would never,
Right.
but I'm bilingual. I can do enough to get by and like translate, but I could never. So like, I could see people doing that.
It's so that the fact that when I'm having conversations and my client tells me, hey, I'm looking for a bilingual, VP of diversity, or I'm looking for, I mean, even it was a receptionist position, right? Receptionist position, but they were adamant about this person being bilingual. So I had to make sure, I think it was like the second interview was majority in Spanish, because they were really adamant that this person knows the lingo.
Well, and that's good, because that's not just, a customer service person. That's somebody who's frontline. Somebody walks into the building. That is the face of your organization in some respects.
Exactly.
That's the first person they're going to engage with. So that's really interesting to see.
It is. I was like, really? Like they were really adamant about that. So that's how another just way that it's shifting.
Yeah.
Right? It's shifting.
And that's so important. I remember like 10 years ago, that didn't happen. They just recruit someone that speaks Spanish. And when they get a call from a Spanish speaking person, they only say, hello, hola, how are you?
¿Cómo estás?
And that's not speaking Spanish. And for a consumer that their main language is Spanish, it's so important for them to feel so secure that they can speak with someone that speaks their language. That could be as important as they just terminate the call, hung up the phone call, and just, said, no, I'm not doing business with these people. And they maybe go with some other lender that have Spanish speaking people, and they do, even in the States, in Florida, people, they do business with Spanish speaking people, it's surprising. And that's why it's so important that maybe you, Dalila, are required or are doing the interviews in Spanish, just to make sure that that person can have a conversation completely in Spanish or in some other language that they may be, required.
Yep. It's a thing which I never had to do before. And now it is becoming like a requirement, a required skill set.
Yeah.
So it shows progress though. I mean, it is, as our diversity and inclusion efforts get more refined and we start focusing on how can we help lenders of all backgrounds? How can we help borrowers of all backgrounds? That really brings to the forefront that there is progress being made and there are steps being taken.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
So as we talk a little bit more about diversity and inclusion, we talked about some of these tools for success. We're talking about materials in both languages or multiple languages, talking about having people who can speak multiple languages. Are there any other resources that you guys are finding lenders are leaning towards to help overcome some of the challenges that they're facing when it comes to servicing individuals with different backgrounds, not just Hispanic, but whether they're Black or Asian or they come from the South Pacific, having these different cultural backgrounds that maybe they do speak English, but they have a different understanding of our systems and of our industry.
You know, I see that I definitely know lenders, like big lenders, still have that community person. It could be a different title, like community, I don't know, community business development or something, but it's that position is becoming really important. You know, I live currently in Florida. Of course, it's huge Hispanic Latino, but what people don't know sometimes, it's huge Caribbean in general. Like you have a huge Haitian population.
And you're going to have completely different mortgage systems in those countries than here. Absolutely.
Exactly. So, and they come here and it's, that is one of my big clients is a complete and all a Haitian mortgage broker, and they do extremely well within their community, but that representation has to be there, right? So you see a lot of banks, big ones, even, you know, Bank of America, PNC, they'll have specific community person for that demographic. Like they'll have it, they understand it. And I noticed that there's that position. It's still growing. It's still growing. It's not going away. It won't go away. I don't
And
know.
I think that ties into a lot of the advice we give and recommend whenever, you know, you're looking to grow your clientele and find additional borrowers, is offering educational seminars and talking to realtor partners. And I think having that designated person that says, hey, I understand this person's background, they could help offer some of those courses, offer some of that training to then say, hey, all right, we're going to, as a lending organization, go and put together a all Spanish new homeownership seminar. And, or we're going to go and do one in French, or we're going to specify it to our borrower and the larger community here. So I think that's a really good role inside of an organization, something that brings in that other touch of understanding.
And you know, sometimes I feel like I can speak from this perspective. You just have someone, I always call myself a chameleon, right? You're able to drop me and I'm able to kind of navigate where I'm at. I don't know if that's everyone's like God-given talent, right? But I can, like, and that's a thing. People, that's a thing, to be able to kind of, I call it code switching, but I don't know if that's professional to call it that.
No, it's adapting. It's reading people and reading the energy, because I mean, the way that I talk with my coworkers is different from how I talk with my friends, which is different than how I would talk to somebody if I'm traveling, you change who you are based on who's around, because it's just connecting. It's it's like everybody has a different energy, we'll say. And so you have to read the energy of a room.
Absolutely. And that's something, if you can find a person that can be that, that's also a great person, an advocate to have on your team.
Yeah. So talking more on that personal side, you know, we've talked about some of the positives happening in our industry. We've talked about some of the challenges we're seeing. For both of you who are in very different markets, what are some of the challenges you've faced being a woman of Hispanic background as a part of the mortgage industry?
I'll let you go first, Marisol.
I know this is a loaded question.
This is a tough one. Well, you know, in my market here, in this little market that I work, being around for so many years, what I just get from my customers and from the consumers, it's just respect. And I feel so honored. You know, I just hear just good things and good feedback, and that makes not my day, my whole month, you know, and just people reaching out to me for help just to hear what I have to say, my feedback, my recommendations, that's, that means a lot to me. That's why I wake up every single day and be so enthusiastic about my job. I don't know how many calls I'm going to get today that I may be helping out people. We can be sitting here and I can tell you so many stories where I have been able to help out a consumer to get their loan approved just by telling them what to do. See, there are not huge things. It's just lack of knowledge and helping them understand what they have to do, or just being with them on a call with a creditor, trying to solve an issue that's been sitting on their credit for, I can say, 5 years. And we can get it solved in an hour or 2 days. And that, that's what I have been experiencing. And I don't see that as a challenge. I love it.
Well, and I feel like, Marisol, you're such a warm person.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are so positive, and I think that's what makes the difference there. It's like, it's not about your background, it's not about your gender, it's not about that. It's about you as a person, and you being such a positive light, and being, so willing to help. I mean, I could call Marisol tomorrow and be like, Marisol, I need this. Like, I need help with this right now. I don't even know what to do. She'd be like, all right, we got this. Like, I am going to help you any way I can. And so I feel like, we often talk about things being a challenge, being a woman in what used to be a man's world now is, becoming more of an equal opportunity as a challenge. We talk about our backgrounds as a challenge. But in actuality, I think it's more about who you are as a person. And that really shines through Marisol.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. You guys are very honored to have her.
Yes.
Yeah.
We love our Marisol.
Well, I will speak on the question, Allie, about being a woman. I absolutely love being a woman in this industry. Has it had some challenges? Absolutely. However, I've learned to navigate through it, right? I've learned that I can be the change. And I also learned and know that I'm representation, and I'm very honored to be that representation. That was not the case a few years back. So, being a woman of color, I also check a lot of boxes. I'm a single mom, right? I'm also an investor. And when people meet me, other than knowing my platform, right? If they know my platform, then they know a little bit about me. But let's just say they just meet me at a trade show, wherever they meet me. I still, to this day, I get snubbed. I get snubbed.
That's surprising. Like, knowing you, that's surprising, because Dalila, you're a little spitfire.
I know.
You're like, don't take this the wrong way, but you're like Tinkerbell. You are like,
but I do.
You're the mortgage tinker. You're like the right amount of sweet and sassy.
I'm the mortgage Tinkerbell. I like that. I had to write that down. The mortgage Tinkerbell.
Like, you're just like, you have a big personality.
Yeah.
And like,
little,
but you're a little person. Yeah.
But
anyway.
And especially, Allie, you and we've met, like we've worked, partnered together. We've been in spaces together, right?
Right.
So, but I've learned through those trials, right? Through those lessons, that it just makes me know that I want to do more for women, more for women of color. Like, I feel like I carry this flag for us, because I am, I come from the environment, projects of Chicago, heroin addict dad, like I have like that background to now being in the industry 21 years, now having my own business, owning multiple properties, knowing how to work them, how to make money, right? Like through them, there's power in properties. And as a single woman, I cannot I feel like I got to preach that to like the choir, that there's power in properties. And credit plays a huge part in that.
Yeah.
Being a woman, being brown, make sure you're on top of your credit. I cannot stress that enough. Make sure you're on top of your credit. I tell people all the time, don't live within your means.
Well, and if you're fortunate enough to be in a position where you can build your credit and you have children, educating them on how to build their credit. I mean, I'm very fortunate in that I had a dad in the finance space, and he said to me, 16, he said, "You're now an authorized user. Don't you use this card, but you're an authorized user because your credit will be built starting at 16 then." And whenever I was 18, he was like, "All right, you are going to get this for yourself, and we are going to make sure you're making payments and that you are building up your credit," because he realized how important it was. And I realized that me as an individual, I was very fortunate to be born into that situation.
That's awesome.
And so on the education side of it, when we're focusing on creating content here at Certified, I'm always thinking, okay, what are the bare minimum lessons you need to just start your credit?
Yeah.
Because not everybody is given that opportunity.
Right.
And, Marisol and Allie, I am a walking testimony to you guys and of that, because not only have we partnered together, right? I have used your product as a landlord and an investor. I've used your product, but now because I've educated my older son, he now has his own business. And who did he go to open an account to pull credit? My older son, my 22-year-old, now has a account with Certified Credit.
Oh.
I don't know if you know that, Marisol, but yeah, not only so.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Delila's our little walking billboard.
Yeah, so now he is now part of Certified and uses the product, and do you see how important that is? Like educating, making sure you add value not only to, your children, your community, because you never know what could come from that.
Right.
We might need a service that you guys provide. And in order for you to get that service, you need what? Good credit.
Well, and I will say, listening to the different areas we've talked about today, some of the takeaways that I'm getting as I think about what we need to be doing better here, we have these educational resources, one, making them more available to our lenders. How can we package those so that our lenders can use them with their customers? But also, how can we start making some of these resources multilingual? How can we start making sure that they are getting to underserved communities? And so I don't know if you ladies have any other points that you think, like as a lender walking away after listening to this, realizing, we're focusing on the Latin community, but focusing on that diversity and inclusion, what should they be doing? How can we as an industry start making more steps towards progress?
I don't know. I definitely think I'm social media, right? The generation that is now in homeownership space, right? Millennials now they're very large generation. They're all on social media. I'm a Gen Xer still, right? I'm not social media, but.
Well, I mean, the social media for millennials versus Gen Zs too.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about this a lot because 47% of the market right now or more is millennial and Gen Z.
Yep.
So, I mean, where are they at? Reaching them where they are.
Well, exactly. Like I see you guys on TikTok. Remember, I comment. So I think you're trending in the right direction, continuing educating on the platforms that they are on. And I think TikTok is a huge one. Of course, Facebook is still you know, I think it's still a great platform, because you have all generations on there, everywhere from baby boomers to Gen Xers to millennials and Gen Z. All of them, for the most part, have. It's one of those platforms. You know, there's different audiences. You know, more of your real estate, your professionals. A lot of real estate agents love Instagram. I don't know if you knew that, but IG is like their go-to platform. Which I think even they need to be educated. I think that
absolutely.
agents do not have, not all of them, but like a lot of them don't know the lending side of it, the credit side of it. And I think that might be a platform, right, that you can.
Absolutely. Well, and I think when we talk about the this new generation of home buyers, we had a conversation a couple weeks ago with Kristen Messerly of experience.com, and she was talking about that there is this very heightened level of mistrust. And if you have a realtor who doesn't understand necessarily credit or the mortgage industry, and they're telling them one thing, and then they get to you and you're saying, oh, no, like, you know, your realtor said, oh, your FICO score is a 620. You're definitely going to qualify for a loan. We don't have to worry right now. And then you go to get your approval or your pre-approval even, and it's not. You're not going to be able to get this. And then they have to spend the next, however long working with that client to educate them on the things they need to do to improve their score. And so then, they could have missed out on the home of their dreams. Whereas if the realtor had said, hey, let's get a pre-approval, let's get a pre-qual right now, and then we'll go from there. And then we can figure out what's inside your budget. What are you going to qualify for? What your rate's going to look like? Can you afford that house with what you're going to qualify for? It all works together.
You're absolutely right. Marisol, I don't know in Puerto Rico, but here the average consumer I don't know why, but they go to the real estate agent I don't know why. Maybe because they're more seen, more out there. Maybe because the product, which is a home, is like more visible versus a loan. It's not like you can't like post a loan.
Well, and a lot of people choose to go to a lender who's associated with that realtor.
Yeah, what I was saying is like they go, saying, hey, I'm ready to buy a home, but you and I, everyone on here knows that you actually have to get the lender's approval, not the agent's approval first. So that is something, and credit plays a huge part. It actually it's the decisioning factor to getting that loan. So you guys are extremely critical, across the board. So I think definitely leveraging platforms, educating, adding value, not only to the lender, the agent, but the consumer as well.
Yeah, I think, here you see everything. You see people going to realtors and or lenders, but I agree with you in terms of, you have the social media here, and the only thing you can do, or lenders should do, or everybody that can help out, is just educate people, educate consumers. In you see locally, I see now more lenders into social media, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, every platform, doing a little, 5-minute talk about different topics, credit, or the opportunities out there for FHA loans or conventional loans, just to educate people and let them know, even though it's challenging, it's possible as well. And we need to continue doing that as, as the industry, just to take all the advantages so people don't fear to come to a lender to try to buy a house, because locally, I would say, people still fear, of getting involved in a mortgage transaction, because they think they cannot make it because a little problem or a little issue they have had in the past with their credit, and they think, oh my goodness, this is such a big problem, and it is not.
No.
That's why it's so important to continue educating people.
Yep. I agree. I agree.
Absolutely. Well, ladies, this has been wonderful. Thank you both so much for coming to talk about your experiences, your background, and what we can do to help lenders. Because I think at the end of the day, it's not something that just we can do. It takes the entire industry. And it's so nice to have industry partners like Dalila Ramos who come and make sure that we're helping to further the diversity and inclusion efforts. And it's wonderful to have people on our team, Marisol, like you, who really are there and all in for the borrower. So thank you, ladies. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. My pleasure. Always a team member of Certified Credit. I appreciate you guys so much. Marisol, it was nice seeing your beautiful face.
Same here. It's been an honor speaking with you ladies. And this is a topic that I really love to talk about. And, for us Latinos to be noticed, and, it's so important. And it has been a pleasure. It is.
Awesome.
All right. Bye.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
ladies.
Thanks for listening to Certified Credit's Talk Data to Me podcast. With over 35 years of industry experience, Certified Credit is your multifaceted mortgage solutions partner. Learn how our commitment to passionate service, innovative products, and superior technology create a more profitable and efficient lending environment for our clients at certifiedcredit.com. Certified Credit, more than just a score.